I'm sure.
Okay.
All right, here we are. So we are live on streaming on YouTube right now.
All right, very good. Hello, everybody. And welcome Subcommittee number 1, which is charged with reviewing 3.7, most of 9, and Chapter 10 of the Charter Review, or Charter. Tody, are you going to keep notes for today's meeting where I can then input into the tracker later?
I will, yes.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate that. All right. Hi, Mary.
Hi there, how are you?
Good. Very good, thanks. Okay, we'll get started, and it looks like we're all here. Mary, Karen, myself, Tom, and Tody. As I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, as I recall, we went through 704, which completes. Oh, wait a minute. I think there's I have the tracker open over my left shoulder. I don't know if we should have that open, Tom, and so we can all reference it at the same time, or.
You know, I don't have that
Or you let me
available. If you want
share?
to, I've been out of the loop. Can you email that to me, that version, and I can, or you can share your screen, Mike.
Oh, you're gonna allow, all right, I thought you had the wheel. All right, let me do that.
Tell me if you can.
Let's see. I'm looking for,
It's down on the bottom green button, share screen.
yeah, I got it open, but I'm wondering,
Select your document, and you'll have to hit. I think there's a final share button you have to hit.
okay.
Speaking of that, I saw Councillor Ken Johnson made a suggested change in Article 7. And it had to do with the Long Range Planning Committee.
Yeah,
Tom, do other towns have long-range planning committees?
No, not necessarily. No, I think that's somewhat unique.
Okay.
And while Mike's doing that, Karen and Mary, just the genesis of that, back for the 2006 comprehensive plan, there was a comprehensive plan committee created. That committee, once the plan was adopted, became something called the Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee. Membership stayed largely intact. And Mike, I think you might have participated in some of those CPIC committees. And as the name suggests, their job was to implement the 06 plan. Once that was done over the course of 8 or 9 years, their work was done, and we saw the value of this group staying on. And so we've created this long-range planning committee that really looks forward and beyond. Any luck, Mike?
you know, I'm hitting share screen. I've got the desktop. I hit share. It asked me to open up system preferences to allow Zoom to share. And then it doesn't, Zoom is grayed out for some reason.
Okay. Now, I suppose Tony, can I get that tracker off the Google shared drive?
You should be able to, yes.
I don't know why I won't share. Yeah, it's looking for some preferences. I don't know if it's because I'm on your Zoom or what.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, bear with me 1 second. I think I can do it.
just sent, I just reshared too.
I'm just trying to find it.
If you pull up your email.
How do I get back?
Yeah, you open up Commission.
All right.
Resharing now.
All right. Here we go. Pardon me.
Thanks, Tom. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, I had to find it. So you want to go to Article 7?
Yeah, so this is the latest, right?
Yes, Liam just forwarded it to me.
Okay.
So I think we worked through all of these residency in term instead of just ownership.
Yep. We talked about links.
Yep. I'm not sure if we discussed this one here, Mike, from Nick McGee.
No, we didn't. Karen and Mary, if you recall otherwise, just let us know.
I wasn't sure if we did discuss it. We didn't want to get that specific.
With McGee's comment,
Yeah, I know but I'm not positive it was in relation to that as well.
Yeah, and Mary, I've got a sneaking recollection of the same. What I know we didn't talk about is this one from Councillor Johnson.
Because that came after.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I knew it was coming. I made kind of a passing reference to it, but it didn't receive any discussion. The real distinction he's making here is that he'd like their work limited to commercial growth only. Right now, it's growth of all kinds, residential, commercial, industrial.
Oh, interesting.
And his notion is to have it limited to commercial growth.
well,
And do you know what his reason is for that, Tom?
I don't want to speak for him, but I'm quite sure it's that he believes residential growth is really the purview and the council should be the one and no one else. This is an advisory group. They have no final decision-making authority. But I believe that's his belief. I guess I could scroll over here, right? Isn't there a?
Yeah, let me see. I got to move my stuff to be able to see that actually.
yeah, I'm not seeing this. Let me see.
Well, here are his words. I don't need to speak for him. At times, the town council receives unsolicited advice on residential growth. I'd like to see this charge change to commercial growth only by removing residential implied. LRPC has brought forward unsolicited advice to fictionalize, I think he means fractionalize our permits and additions to the permit reserve pool. And he ends by saying LRPC involvement in residential growth is confusing to most councilors and should be limited to solicited advice from town council.
I'm confused by what's confusing to them. I guess I don't understand the role or why they would want to further limit free advice.
Fair enough. And as the language of 704, the Long Range Planning Committee, and I quote, shall be advisory and shall act as the primary committee to develop and recommend plans for the growth and development of the town. So that's their very broad mandate right now.
Right.
And that's what he's looking to kind of focus. It may be fine for us to simply say, we talked about it, we need to know more, want to know more.
Yeah, let's make a note towards that because I'm having been on the predecessor to the long-range planning called CPIC, I didn't find that our efforts were confusing to the town council. I'm sure the town council today is no less intelligent than the ones that I've served on, so.
I think it would be helpful to get feedback from other town councilors and see what their feeling is. I think one of the new members of the zoning board is actually on the long range planning committee. I think it might be worth talking to one of them about, as residents and a member of that committee, how they feel about that.
Mhm.
Well, I think, isn't there a planning board liaison to that too as well? But-
Yes.
It seems somewhat, on the face of it, to me, seems somewhat odd, because I feel like with this long range planning committee, you're also getting more feedback from the town, about the needs of the town, which that seems like, on the face of it, to me, to be a good thing, to get more, more information versus just the 7 people on the council,
Right.
Even if the council decides that's ultimately not the direction they go in,
Mhm.
so be it, but.
Yeah, and I also am struggling with the comment about unsolicited advice, but okay, so if I could summarize, it seems to me that all 3 of us are in favor of more clarity, at the very least, not really overly concerned with the current language. Would that be right?
Yeah, right now, I would not be in favor of changing it.
Okay.
But I mean, I agree with Karen, though. I think getting some more information, I think, is definitely wise.
Well, we'll get that. We'll get that whether we ask for it or not, because all this will go through the full committee. And of
Yep.
course, we have 2 counselors on that committee, so.
Mhm.
But if you feel we should do further outreach, then that's fine too. I think-
Mike, I think you could probably capture that in the tracker.
Yeah,
That you've taken it up, but need more information.
sure, I'll do that. And I'll rely on Tony taking the short notes, and I'll add it to the tracker. Sure.
Okay. So you ready to move on to Article 9?
We're good, Karen, Mary?
Yeah, can I just ask one thing about the planning committee? Because I think I put a note in the minutes from last time. Because I know we did talk about whether, I know with the planning committee, that's the only committee that you can be a landowner or a, or you can, own a business kind of thing instead of being a town resident. And I thought, and I wasn't sure where we landed on that. I thought we said we liked this current language, but I wasn't sure of that. Because I kind of put something in the minutes saying that we discussed it, but I wasn't sure. I thought we'd said leave it alone, but
I recall that as well.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Karen, do you remember it differently?
No, that's what I recall.
Okay, great. Because I didn't put that in the minutes because I wasn't positive, but that's what I thought, so.
As a practical matter, I don't think we've ever had a non-resident a member, but
Okay, I'm good with that.
All right, so we're looking at the next one, Tom, or
yeah, I'm going to jump ahead to Article 9.
are we done with 7? Was that it for the
That's
end?
it. 705 is the last
Yep.
one.
Yep.
704,
excuse me.
And Mr. Johnson's comment, that was the last one, okay.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
All right, so we're avoiding 901.5 and 907. So 900 is open for consideration.
Now, we touched on this earlier. You might recall creating the subcommittee structure, the committee held back certain subsections or sections. And as it relates to Article 9, the sections that they held back were 901.5
Right,
and 907.
correct.
And maybe it's helpful if I just pull up the charter real quick.
Yeah, I wish I could share because I had that too. I don't know why I can't. We should go to Teams, works better. Yeah, as we start our discussion on Article 9, so the title is Referendum, Initiative, and Recall. Section 901 is petition for overrule of action by town council.
The reason I bring that up, Mike, is that I think the issue that people flagged was the percentage was the issue they wanted the full committee to talk about. And
Yeah.
I guess I'm looking for confirmation that that was the issue.
I think that's what I've heard more than anything else, yes.
Yes, I think so.
Well, if that's the issue, percentages, Tony, tell me if I'm wrong, maybe percentages, yeah, percentages kind of are fairly consistent. I mean, you'll see percentage again in 902.1.
Mhm.
So I'm a little at a loss in terms of what we should be looking at. It appears again in 903.4.
I think, I'm not sure if people wanted to increase or decrease the percentage or
Well,
change.
At the last charter review, Mike, I think they increased it because it used to be lower, much lower.
Yes, I think
It was like 10% and they increased it to, I think one area is 20% and another area, this one is 25%.
yeah, and in another area it was 30.
Mhm.
I think Liam shared the notes from that meeting several years ago. But
I
in
think
any
my-
case, Tom, 9015, I mean, we don't even have to discuss it really at the.
No, but I'm just wondering whether that's true of some of these other sections in Article 9 that deal with percentages. It strikes me that if maybe they were concerned solely with this one percentage, but I can't believe that's the case. Only
Yeah.
point being, there may be other sections that in Article 9 here that the full committee wanted to kick around.
The other thing I wondered, I'm not sure, because I know we, in this charter, it's 25% of the number of votes cast in the gubernatorial election, but I know other towns will just have 25% of registered voters. So I don't know if that was something people were,
That was mine.
yeah, because I know that was something I had thought of as well. So I don't,
I think if memory serves me right, even in the 30A is a percentage of the last gubernatorial election. So unless they amended, they must have something different in their charter. Because 30A is a percentage of gubernatorial votes cast in that last election. So this pretty much,
in the state law.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my personal comment was, I'm reading now, number of votes cast, a number of registered voters. It was just really just written out there just to have a conversation, just to have a better understanding as to why one might be valued over another. But
So my only question is whether we as a subcommittee should take time to talk about any percentage in this article or leave that for the full committee.
I'm comfortable leaving it for the full committee, really. So does the subcommittee feel that, as we go through Article 9 and any of its subsections, that anytime that there's a discussion relating to percentages of voters registered, whatever, that we would defer that to the full committee?
Is it worth just quickly, I'll scroll through and try to pick what those are just so we have isolated those. So I think we can do it fairly quickly.
Okay, sure.
So this is 901.5.
That's already a full committee
Yep.
endeavor. Okay.
So moving on to 902, I see it here.
9021.
9021.
9034.
You're too fast, Tony.
Sorry.
9034.
9037.
That's the one that Liam, I think I was going for 60% during the conversation.
And then 907, 1.3. That's it.
907, 1.3.
1.3, yeah.
Okay, we agreed that those 5 subsections will be full committee discussion?
I'm comfortable deferring to that. Yeah.
I think it makes sense. I can't imagine if we ought to have consistency as best we can, right?
Well, that's the thing, depending on how the conversation goes, I think we'd all agree that we'd like it to at least be consistent throughout. And if we discuss it as subcommittee, not only will it take up a lot of time, but also leaving out 1.5 would be problematic in our discussion.
So we're back to the beginning here.
So Mary and Karen, you good with that?
Yep, that's fine with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so 9011, are we happy with that? All ordinances. I don't think, can you,
Oh, could we see the tracker?
yeah, I guess,
Yeah. So here, it starts here.
900 of the title, okay. I guess we're starting with, Mr. Stevenson wants us to discuss the value of the title, relevancy, it's confusing. Description, sake of clarity.
I mean, this whole section is about power to the people, right? It's a way for them to either enact an ordinance, repeal an ordinance, or recall elected official, or I guess also approve bond issues.
So he's saying he doesn't like the referendum initiative and recall. Is that what he's saying he doesn't like?
I believe so, yeah. I believe
Okay, I'm just making sure. Yeah.
looking for more clarity.
Yeah, he probably has a point. It's
Yeah.
not absolutely clear what's there. Having said that, nothing comes immediately to mind that would be clearer,
What would you call it?
right?
Did
Yeah,
you say petitions for, and then referendum mission, like, I don't know. But it's more than just a petition, I guess.
yeah, but you know what? I think you're onto something there, Mary, because every section of 904 so far,
No, that's true. So
it's petition. It's all related to,
Yeah.
well, then it goes submission to voters
Mhm.
and voter referendum. I don't know. I mean, I would say,
That might help.
You could call it maybe voter rights dash referendum initiative recall.
yeah. Petition, comma, voter rights, or voter rights, comma, petition, recall.
Petition comes into play in most of these because that's how you initiate the process,
Yeah.
but it doesn't, not for all of them,
Right.
such as the bond issues. The petition doesn't initiate that process. The charter says it goes to the voters, so it goes to the voters. So I think the word petition is a bit of a misleading inclusion there.
Hmm.
For lack of something better, I think voter rights probably captures the intention. There's a bunch of different voter rights that are detailed here.
And voter rights relates to the bond. I'm scrolling
Yeah,
down.
the voter right is that they must approve.
Yeah.
Right.
How about voter rights initiatives?
Maybe you could keep the language that's there, just
Just
preceded
voter,
by voter rights dash referendum initiative and recall.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
That'll
I
work.
like
All right, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, all this stuff will be debated at the full committee.
Yeah.
Right. You got that right, Tony?
I do.
Okay, great. All right.
Okay.
So let's see, Mr. Foster. Are the figures listed in 9 sections 1.2? Oh, I guess the dollar figures through 915, 2.1. Well, these are percentages. Part of this is percentages. 903.1. That's That's also something we've deferred, right?
No,
That one we haven't, no.
no. These are, I can go back to it. Does someone have a list of those references?
I do.
Okay, so let me just pull up the charter and we can look at the actual language. So what's the first one, Mike?
Oh, no, I have the charter, I have the charter open.
Okay, why don't you open the tracker?
All right, let me find that tracker again.
Incidentally, you might be shocked to know that we have no attendees.
Disappointing.
How come my meeting?
I think I've got a paper copy here. Uh, Tony, do you have it?
I'm sorry. I was looking at something else.
Yeah, my,
The list of the percentages?
Well, just the references that Alan Foster's made, so we can actually see them and get a sense of what he's talking about.
yeah, I got it here, Tom. I just lost the video, that's all. So that's okay. I can fly blind, flying under the hood. All right, 901.2.
So that's the dollar amount, presumably.
Yeah, and it says 901.2 through 901.5. Right. Then we have 902.1.
That's the percentage.
Right.
Yeah,
902
he's asking a lot of things there. He's asking a lot of things.
Yeah.
903.1.
That's also percentage.
No,
Right.
that's the
No.
registered, number of registered voters for, that you
Oh.
have to have to initiate a recall petition.
Mhm.
So that's something we can talk about.
Yeah,
Whether
other,
that threshold is correct.
I think other people had brought that one up as well, the number of voters.
And that's to, one of the members made a comment that all they needed was 25 signatures. Well, that's not the case. You need 25, a committee of 25 people to initiate a recall petition, of which one of those would be a liaison between the clerk and the the clerk would have to deal with, I guess you could put it that way. So, but then it goes down, once they form their group, they come in and they have the 20 days and they still have to get 25% of the registered voters, no, the last group from the last gubernatorial
Yep.
election. So I think they were looking at either reducing that number down from 25 to, I'm not really sure, and I believe the number that was put in place was,
Well, we've agreed not to deal with this today.
no, I'm talking about the
25,
903.1.
okay.
Yeah,
3.1. So actually, Tony, if it takes 25 registered voters as written today, it takes 25
Mhm.
registered voters to initiate the process.
correct.
But it's a higher threshold to actually bring the process to the point where an elected official is actually considered for recall.
Correct. And I believe that's why the number is so high.
The later number, 25%.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
There's a fair discussion point here. Is this a high enough or too low? Is it too low as an initial bar?
Well, I think if I was recently recalled, I might have a certain answer. I personally think it's kind of low, but it really just, it's my gut feeling.
Mhm.
It's kind of low for the way I think of it is this, is that it's not uncommon that an elected official, board or town council might be elected with, say, 2,500, 3,000 votes.
Mhm.
and we have 25 individuals, maybe for great reasons, don't get me wrong, but that can initiate this process. And I hate to really think of it this way, but it's real life. I mean, depending on the ability for folks to market their message, you know, you could have somebody recalled that actually just performing their job and just made decisions that weren't in favor of the 25 who initiated the whole process.
Yeah, I guess I just offer, I mean, I was the strongest advocate for recall. This did not exist before the last revision process of the charter. I think it's a cornerstone of good government. I think it's just the people need a way to remove elected officials that they don't think are doing the job.
Mhm.
Having said that, I think there need to be safeguards so someone can't be vindictive or go rogue. The first safeguard would be this, right? How many people does it take to at least initiate the process? You know, if that number is 50 or even 100, I presume that's not really a safeguard. I think they could probably get that done.
Yeah.
The real threshold is how many voters need to sign the petition to get it on the ballot. To me, anyway.
I think the other thing to think about too is when you passed this in 2010, I don't think social media was at the same level it is now. So I think it is far easier to get those thresholds than it was like when this was enacted. I think, I think it was much more difficult. Whereas now I think things can take hold on social media very easily. So I don't know if that's something we should consider or not, but I do know it's definitely a different world than it was in 2011. That's for sure.
Right, but you can get 50 signatures standing at the post office for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That's kind of my response is I mean, I sign petitions even if I don't support them because I support the idea of democracy. So I'm like, hey, I might not support this, but I'll support you in your right to put it on the ballot and things like that sometimes. I think 25 is low. I also personally sort of feel like sometimes I feel like some people are reacting to what our town went through with the recall election and they don't want to maybe go through that again. Where I think Tom maybe and Tody can talk to that about that process, but 25, 50, 100, I think you're right. I think they can get that easily.
Well, I wasn't actually talking about the signatures. I was talking about actually the 25 registered voters to get that group together. I think that's something that with social media, I think it's very easy to get 25 people together. Whereas in 2010 or 11, I think that it might have been a little more work to get a group together.
Yeah, Mary, I guess our point is, even if you make that 100, the chances are that's going to be successful.
Yeah.
For much the same reason as Karen says, I find myself saying, yeah, I believe in your right to do this. I don't necessarily may not believe in what you're doing or why you're doing it, but.
Well, I don't think we want to make it a huge change if we did up it, because I think it might seem more reactionary if we did that.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember, we started off with a lower number and settled on 25 back when we were discussing it.
I don't recall, but I would tend to agree. I don't think this ought to be a bar to initiate the process. Is there a suggestion for another number?
I could throw a number out there, but to be honest with you, I don't think I could really speak well to justify it. I mean, like you say, I think if it's 50 or 75, I don't think that threshold would really be any more difficult to meet, really.
I think this would be a good one to get feedback from residents if we could, I think, but
I do know when we did have the recall, there was no issue on getting the 25 registered voters. There was none whatsoever.
Right. And I don't think you probably would have had an issue getting 50.
Right.
No, I don't either. And we certainly don't want to send a message that says that we want to make it more difficult for folks to exercise that democratic right. But
well, and one of my questions was generally, do other towns have these things in their charters, petitions for recalls, Tom?
They do.
Yeah, more and more. Yes.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's a cornerstone of good government. There needs to be some recourse to the voters. You know, the easiest example would be an elected official just going rogue, just being, you know, derelict in their duties or doing something abhorrent. I think where it gets a little more problematic is when people just disagree with a decision an elected official made. And since we're talking about it, I guess the way I thought we were trying to protect against that was kind of common sense, requiring that the petition state the reason for the recall, and that when people were asked to sign the petition, they would say that's not a good enough reason, or agree that it is a good enough reason. That's something we might want to look at. You know, more clarity in terms of the rationale and reason for the recall.
I would agree. I would agree with that. That I think that would be helpful to have a little more clarity in that regard.
Well, I guess we're jumping around a bit, and we jumped to here because of Alan Foster's reference, right? So, Mike, do you want to exhaust?
Yeah, so 903.1, I guess it seems to me that the subcommittee is open to further discussion, maybe in some of the language as it relates to statement of reason or reasons for a proposed recall.
Yeah, that's buried further in 903 here.
But I'm not hearing any real strong arguments here. Or at least I'm struggling to think of a way to write it down where we're thinking of increasing the 25 registered voters to a higher number.
That might not be what needs to happen. Maybe that's just not, which is fine.
Right. I think we're more generally satisfied after talking it out with its current language. Maybe some tweak here and there, but
It was actually in that same section. I just realized that must contain a statement
Mhm.
of
of the
reason.
reason or reasons for the proposed recall,
Right.
which is actually printed, and Tody prints that reason on the top of every recall petition that she prepares.
And another good, I know I don't think anyone has issues with this one, but the next 3.2 is another safeguard where if more than one official is being considered for recall, it's a whole separate effort, is it not? They can't be combined.
The only one that we've had, there were three, and there had to be an affidavit on each one.
Right.
And they had to have separate petitions. And they had to collect the same amount of signatures for each petition.
And you won't be surprised that if someone was willing to sign one, they generally signed the other two as well.
Sure.
It was the same reason.
And you could tell that's exactly what happened, because you could go down each petition and the names were all the same crossed.
Yeah. All right. Well, if there's no objection, I guess I can move on. Mr. Foster's next is 3.7. And that's got a percentage in it. So that's one that we've.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's 7.1.3.
7?
907.1.3.
That's a percentage. Yeah.
Yep, that's the other percentage.
Okay.
All right, we're back to the top.
All right. So now we're at Bristol. Mr. Bristol.
Ms.
I'm sorry. Okay. Change to certain board issues and expenditures. Doesn't have a whole lot of clarity as to what the request is, and it just has 900 for the section.
Yeah, it's gonna be 907 she's referring to.
Change to certain board issues and expenditures.
Bond issues.
Bond issues, yeah.
Bonds, yeah. Mhm.
this is in 907. The committee wants to consider the entirety of 907. So I think we can
Yeah,
skip
right.
over.
okay, good eye. Ms. Bristol also says vote a referendum on credit enhancement agreements over a certain annual amount.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't exist anywhere. I don't know where it would go. Probably in 907.
I want to say it's beyond my scope.
Yeah, I think you put a pin in that one. I think that's for the full committee. Same with this next one.
The next one is vote a referendum on one-time operating expenses over 400K.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's been deferred as well. Huh?
Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you. And let's see, Ms. Hanley, and others require credit enhancement agreements that have total payouts greater than the threshold set for bond issue referendums be subject to voter referendum, just as bond issues are.
I think you pass that over. That's the same issue as Ms. Bristol.
Yeah,
And it's slightly different, but it's the same topical
yeah.
issue.
And Tony, you're recording that.
I am.
So I keep asking, I know, I'm sorry.
It's
Ms.
okay.
Hanley and others require referendum vote on any sale, swap, transfer of town-owned land. Is that in 900?
Yeah, that's a good question. It doesn't exist anywhere in the charter. I'm not sure where it would fit best if you were to entertain it.
Mary, Karen, you have any thoughts on that? To require a referendum vote on any sale, swap, or transfer of town-owned land.
Yeah, I mean, I understand probably where this is coming from, because I know there was a lot of conflict about certain, land swaps that happened at Pine Point and places.
Really?
That's what I remember, but I'm not sure if I would agree with a referendum vote on that, because
Further clarity on the land transactions have been among the most controversial town actions in past years. Having them subject to voter referendum will guarantee that the town's voice has been heard.
When you transfer land or purchase it, who's making that decision? Is it the town manager or is the town council?
Town council. Yeah, the town council solely has that authority.
Well, I mean, those are our represented, voted in officials. I feel like.
I mean, that's a theme that kind of runs through a number of these suggestions to me, that we have a representative form of democracy. So your elected officials are authorized by way of the town charter to do certain things on behalf of residents. And so many of these things, I think, are running a bit counter to the form of government that we have.
Yeah, true. I mean, I'm comfortable talking about Pine Point because I had the front row on that one.
You still have a nervous twitch that you developed. It's still with you, Mike.
And it is unfortunate, obviously, because I mean, the town council chambers were full of individuals who were not pleased with the town council's vote at the end. I think the vote was 4-3, so it was close. And the impact was mostly felt by folks in the Pine Point area. Maybe this is another reason why folks who want wards think that that's a good idea. I don't know. But, I obviously felt that it did serve the town's voice. And I was reelected afterwards.
Yeah, I mean,
But to Tom's point, be more serious. To Tom's point, yeah, that's the form of government we have. It's each town council is represented, is voted in to represent the whole town, and they do the best they can. If they don't, they're subject to recall, I guess, or not reelected. This this comment, although I don't minimize it, it's a good comment, but it appears more consistent with town meeting kind of government.
Yeah, and just to get on my soapbox just for a minute, I mean, when the town switched in 1969 to this form of government, I have to believe one of the reasons, if not the driving reason, is that as the government structure became more sophisticated and complicated, it really needed elected officials and professionals to understand the issues and the impact of decisions. And that's not to say that the voters are incapable, but they may be, just because of the volume and the complexity. And so that's certainly true more so now than in 1969, to expect the average resident to understand the nuances and details of an important decision, is a lot to ask of a resident.
Anyway, so I'm not in favor of requiring a referendum for these kinds of town council actions, but what say you, Karen?
Yeah, oh, I'm with you, Mike. I don't feel like it's a good idea, like similar to what I was actually thinking, exactly what Tom was saying. I do feel like the complexity of these transactions, and just the fact that these things can get dumbed down to a level that doesn't even resemble what it really is about, that would be a concern for me, just because in today's world that can happen very easily.
Yes.
And I would rather have people that have studied it for weeks and months to make these decisions versus people that just read a small blurb, about it. That's what I would prefer.
Anything to add, Karen?
No, I agree with Mary and what you guys have been saying.
Okay. Let's move on if you don't mind then. I'm gonna butcher this name, I'm sorry. Castiglionis?
Yeah, perfect.
All right, 1.4. 1.4. Is that open for, oh, that's increase the amount in 901.2, 1.3, and 1.4 to coincide with inflation since charter was last reviewed. This amount of money is not substantial in today's economy.
So 901.4.
Yeah, so it's 400,000. It's a $400,000 question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was that the one we're pushing forward? Is that the one that the whole committee, or no?
Oh, actually, it's 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. So it's 100,000, 100,000, and 400,000.
Right.
I don't think we pushed that.
No.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I got confused on that one. But
It looks like the charter that I'm looking at, I think it's the one that I got off the website. So assuming it's the most recent, it looks like 1.4, which speaks of exceeding 400,000, was amended in 2010 and then effective 2011.
And remember, this whole section, this covers it. The following shall be subject to overrule by referendum. So this does not require voter approval, but it makes it eligible for overrule by referendum. You follow me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom, can I just ask, what do you think of those figures? Because you deal with this money you deal with this all the time. So when I hear Leanne's comment, I think it does make sense to me,
Luckily, this has never come into play during my tenure here, but
Oh, okay.
her point's well taken. I'm sure that these are, present value would be much higher than this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look it up real quick as you guys continue to discuss it.
Because Tom, if you were to purchase some kind of capital equipment, or like what would like an example of something you would like, what would a cost of something be like right now? Just like, I don't know, off the top, if you can say.
A plow truck costs $225,000 all in.
Yeah, so to me that says, because this is saying capital equipment, so if like just one plow truck costs $225, then, you know,
Correct.
well,
Most of this is done as part of a single budget order,
oh, okay.
um, which could be really problematic. But this talks about Tony, what do you think? Would the budget order apply in this case?
Yes, because if you remember when we purchased we had the budget for the fire truck,
Yeah,
we had to put it out to referendum. It was approved in the budget, but we still have to send it out to referendum.
right, because that was what,
That's
7?
different. That's 907. This is overrule of action by council. It's a different scenario.
Right, right.
Yeah, you're right. So this really is not a discussion on increasing those numbers.
Not this one, no.
Well, but it could be. I mean, what these are, this identifies what is right and available for overrule by referendum. And so
Well,
right now,
I just did a quick calculation on this inflation calculator, and as you know, inflation has been pretty much under control, so. But in 2011, $100,000. Today, it's 117, 116.
so, I mean, if you're going to use an inflationary factor, it's appreciably no different,
Right.
you know.
The 400 would be a little bit more significant, I guess.
Yeah.
This number reflects what's in 9071. In 907 is that certain bond issues would be put out to referendum, so.
Yeah, but Tony, I'm sorry, this 901.4, where 400 appears,
Right.
is in the context of conveyance of town-owned real property. It's a different thing.
Town-owned property required by no. Okay. Sorry, I'm just gonna look back at my,
Yeah, so anyway,
that was new put in, that wasn't even an amendment, that was actually adopted. That was new language that was put in 2010.
the whole section, this,
That 901.4.
Interesting. I wonder if that was because of the land swap
That
interest.
could have been,
what, the Pine Point land swap?
Yeah, something must have triggered that. If that was new language introduced in the last revision.
because they have all the amendments that were, or adoptions that were made. And that was new.
All right.
Well,
Well, I don't argue with the opportunity for this to exist, certainly. I mean, do we want to talk about that 400,000, by the way, would be approximately 465 today.
yeah, there's no magic here. I think you could frankly pluck an arbitrary number out of the sky. I can't imagine there's any logic that was put forward initially here. You could make the 100s 200 and the 400 600 or 800 if you wanted.
I guess to me, it's kind of a question maybe too of like how much, like, is there a concern that any purchase, by the town would be, submitted to this? And I don't know, maybe this hasn't happened very often, that these petitions, I think you said it hadn't happened. So maybe it's not even a concern, so maybe that's not an issue anyway. But
Yeah, again, most of the authorization is granted as part of a singular budget order. But of course it has, 500 different pieces. Do you know what I mean?
But but is there sometimes there is money spent not during the budget season, but at a different time?
Yeah.
once in a while, a few
Sure,
times.
on rare occasion, sure that
Yeah.
happens.
But this does, tell me if I'm wrong, but this does have a threshold to it. I mean, if you spent $99,000, would it be argued that it would not be subject to a referendum, an overrule?
Yes,
I don't know. It just seems like the temperature of society today is to keep these opportunities for the citizens to be heard easier rather than harder. So I don't know if I have any energy to really see these numbers increase.
okay.
Yeah, I think hearing your calculations on inflation, it just doesn't seem worth touching.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was surprised. For some reason, I thought the inflation would be higher, but
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, being in government, I am blessed by receiving the cost of living increases most years, but they're like 1%.
Hmm.
Yeah, inflation's been pretty low.
That's the price you get for job security, Mike.
Exactly. I'm not complaining. Exactly. All right, very good. So let's see. Let me find my cursor here. Mr. McGee says in 1.5. Oh, we deferred that, right?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson also 1.5.
Mhm.
Again, 1.5 for Mr. Stevenson. Miss Bristol 1.5. Miss Bristol 1.5 again. I have a comment for 1.5. 1.7. 1.7, both McGee and Wood. Last sentence has must be filed for each, should be filed.
Good catch.
Can I have a vote on that? All right, make it so. Typo. We're now at 2.1.
Well, we're going to agree with that and pass that on, right?
1.7?
Yeah.
Yes, I think, right? Yeah, I'm seeing it all in favor.
Okay.
1.7, I think we deferred, right? 25% of the number of votes
Yes.
cast? Okay.
Yep.
And 2.1, Mr. McGee,
That's deferred.
same thing. 2.2. Mr. McGee says, should petitioners be able to appeal town attorney ruling? What would be the mechanism for final ruling? And he further on says it's a discussion point. Any such proposed ordinance shall be examined by town attorney before, well, you guys are reading too, sorry.
wait, what did Nick say? I'm sorry, I was reading the 2.2, and so he's saying,
Should petitioners be able to appeal town attorney ruling?
I wouldn't think so. I mean,
I think the protection here, the purpose that it's referred to the town attorney is that what's being asked through the petition process is actually appropriate, is valid from, avoiding repetition, illegalities. I can't see behind my box here.
And unconstitutional
Constitutional
provisions.
provision. So it's not to change or otherwise influence what the intent of the petition is to make sure it's put in a form that's actually workable should it be successful.
And tell me if I'm wrong, doesn't the town council, what is the mechanism for approving of the town attorney's work?
Ultimately, the council votes to put a matter to the voters.
And by doing so, they approve the language that.
Correct.
So I think that is the mechanism. That is the protection.
Well, on a petition, that piece, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but the initial step, I think that, like Thomas said, that the attorney's just reviewing the language. That piece does not get put before the council until that, if it's successful at the petition.
In some respects, you could view this as the town attorney is working for the petitioners to make sure that their idea the germ of an idea is put in the proper form, so it's not illegal, unconstitutional, or, problematic should it be approved.
I see. Okay, I wasn't.
So he's not change, the attorney's role is not to change the substance or the intent of the petition. It's to make sure it's in a form that's acceptable.
Yeah, this seems actually more supportive in helping residents and voters do this. This is
Right.
like, we'll help you and support you and make sure your verbiage is right.
I mean, it has to be legal. You can't pass something and have it not.
Right.
Yeah, so I suppose it could be viewed as kind of assisting the petitioners, but it also protects us. We're in a world of hurt if something illegal or constitutional gets passed by the voters and now it's law and it's unworkable, So I don't see why we would want the petitioners to somehow have a mechanism to overrule the town attorney, which is what
Yeah.
McGee has asked.
Right, at their own peril, potentially. Yeah, okay. Well, good discussion, and Tony's captured that notes, and I'll put that on the tracker.
Okay.
2.3 wood. I'm trying to understand why I put this. My note was, why different language than previous? Shall the ordinance entitled such and such be adopted? Oh, I see. 1.6, I think you might be able to fit on the same screen, but 1.6, just a little bit up, says, shall the ordinance order resolve entitled be approved? And I guess I don't have any issues with either way. It's just that,
Because in 902, it's specifically, it's a petition to enact for enactment of an ordinance. It's
okay, so
specific to that piece.
so adopted is more,
No, so the only difference, Mike, is this allows for ordinance order resolve, as it were.
Yeah.
This is limited to ordinance because 902 is enactment of ordinance.
Right.
But I think in all other respects, the language is the same, right?
Well, it's be adopted or be approved, I guess is the difference.
Oh,
right,
Right,
Gotcha.
because the other piece, it's an order resolves, and then, because under 901, it indicates ordinances, and because you're overruling the action of a council, and it can be an ordinance or an order or a resolve. So it's giving you the choice. When we have a question, say somebody's going to bring a petition because they want to overrule an order that the council made. You take out the other two and it will be shall the order entitled be approved.
no, but the difference, Tony, this says be approved, the other one says be adopted.
Right, because on enactment of an ordinance, it would be an adoption of an ordinance.
Because it's new, is that why, Tony? Because it's like a
Yes,
new ordinance,
it's like a
basically?
new-
Yeah,
new.
that makes
yes.
sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
okay.
Okay, so this is overrule, this is new. Gotcha.
Correct.
All right, thanks for that. Let the record show I'm satisfied and retract my comment.
Who's that kook wood that keeps coming up with these things anyway?
3.1, that's deferred, right?
Yes,
And
Is it?
that was the 25, no, I think we resolved that one.
903.1.
yeah, we did talk about this,
Yeah.
did we not? No,
Yeah, we did.
okay.
So we
And,
did.
and I think we're kicking that up to there was some openness to a slight increase of that number, but I think you wanted more discussion on it.
And a statement of reason for a recall. Because it really doesn't, there's no specific reason for a recall.
Yeah, other towns do have more specific reasons, so
Right.
I think that would be a good discussion to have with the full group.
Okay, and just for the record, Wood and McGee both made comments relating to that number being potentially low. But, and, actually, 3.1, public comment via Mr. Stevenson. I'd recommend any 10 verse 25 voters to form a petition. So there's a comment looking for it to be lowered. But in any case, we're going to defer this to the larger committee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, 3.1, Mary, Should there be an increase? We got that. And Mary, you also said applicable reasons for recall should be clearly delineated. We got that too, right? We captured that.
Mhm.
And
Mary, it might be helpful if it sounds like you found alternative language elsewhere,
Yep,
that you have that available just to help guide that discussion. You know,
absolutely.
how
Mhm.
might you tighten it up?
Yep, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know, do you want me to share that with just this subcommittee so we can put it in our tracker, or like where should we share that, I guess? Where should that be best?
I'd be good with that, Mary. That when we report up to the full committee, would be in a good position. You can speak right to it right from the tracker.
Well, do you want this committee to come forward with maybe some suggested language? I mean, that's the option.
Yeah, that would be
Okay.
the,
So I can
Yeah, no, I
stop,
can, oh, go ahead, Sam, sorry.
I can stop sharing and you can, do you have language right now that you can share with us?
So
You're
I've kind of got it in different places, so I might want to send an email. Maybe can I send an email to the
Mhm.
committee? Would that be okay? Because I've just kind of started looking, so I have like a little
Sure.
bit here and a little bit there. So
Okay,
I'd rather just get it all in one document versus sending you, different
yep, very good.
send it on and then we'll put it to the tracker.
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, let me see. Let me find my place here. 3.4. Miss Bristol. No, wait a minute. 3.4, Mr. McGee and Miss Bristol.
We're bypassing that one.
Yeah.
Are we okay? 3.7
Bypass.
Mhm.
and 904. .904 is Mr. or Miss Foster. In the same article under section 904.3, should the wording maybe be changed to must be? Or is this just semantics?
So it's 904.3.
Yeah. 4.3, yes.
I don't see maybe or must be. Am
Oh,
I missing-
it's may be circulated. Forms must be.
Yeah, that's right.
Do they have to be circulated by a Scarborough resident?
Yes.
They do. Oh, so then probably it should be that.
Or you could put shall be.
Yeah.
Which do you like, must or
Which, I was gonna
shall?
say which.
I'm accustomed to shall in the business that I'm in. But
Anyone disagree with that?
It matters that much.
I'm
as
okay.
opposed to must.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
So that's a recommended change to
Yep.
shall?
Yeah, we recommend may change to shall in 4.3.
Yep.
Okay, 4.2.1. I know I'm going up, but I'm just reading the tracker. 4.2.1. Mr. McGee, 25 changed to 50.
Oh, that's a,
Yeah, that's related, right?
mhm.
Yeah, that's related to the other. Yeah.
4.2.1, Miss Bristol. Any specific requirements for petition for overrule of action by town council? Any specific requirements for a petition for overrule of action by town council?
That's covered in 901. Petition for overrule of action by council.
All right, let's make a note of that and I'll refer it up. 4.2.3 Wood says, other than an agent of the town. Oh. You see where it says attested by a notary public or other person authorized under Maine law?
Mm-hmm. Right here.
So I guess just for conversation, I threw a comment out there. Each person signing the petition form had an opportunity to read the petition. The affidavit of the circulator must be attested by a notary public. Does anyone have issues with an agent of the town being that same person? Is there any potential conflicts or?
Well, state petitions require a notary public or an attorney to verify, when they're signing the petitions, to verify the signature
Right,
of the person who circulated it. So, and I think the other authorized person under Maine law would be an attorney.
Mike, I believe a notary public is duty bound, so regardless, I don't think conflict of interest can or would ever weigh in. They're simply attesting to what's being presented to them, whether it's a signature or what have you. So they're not reading the substance and making any determination. They're simply attesting the fact that this person appeared before me. And Tony, you're a dedimus.
They're a test, pardon me?
You're a dedimus justice. You're
Correct.
Grand Poobah, aren't you?
I am. But they're attesting that the person that's signing the document is aware and in good faith collected all the signatures.
okay. All right. I just had it out there. I can't give you an example. I just thought, would any kind of effort that would fall under this, this area potentially be conflicting to a town employee? That's all.
I don't think so. I think the duties that that are related to the notary public title supersede, don't allow for any conflict to enter in.
Right.
Okay.
It's not going to benefit any of us in
And it
this.
doesn't require it to be a town employee, though
Right.
it often
No.
is, right?
It does-
Our state, the state petitions that come in are already notarized, so we don't have anything to do with that. The local ones, I will tell you, some of the ones that were brought in by the last recall group, they had their own notary. So
Okay. All right. Excellent. 6.2, Cassidy-Lonius. Recommendation to clarify the rules between 6.1 and 6.2. Are the 30 days in sequence meaning no more than 60 days between events? Or is it a total of 30 days for the two events to be scheduled? 6.1, 6.2.
I just have to read that. Within 30 days after the date of the public hearing, the council shall call and hold a special election. If the date of the special would fall within the 30 days immediately prior to a regular. Okay, so that is, it's pretty much saying that if the date of the public hearing, 30 days after, if there's an election, if I'm understanding this, the 30 days, if there's another election, then that will be held on that election.
Okay, so no more than 60 days between events.
Well, unless it's already close to an election, like say if you've got,
Right.
say if 70 days, 70 days from that, you have the school budget vote, then you would have it then. You wouldn't have it at the 60 day. You'd have it, because it's close to it, because it's
Right.
within 30 days of that.
Okay,
That's my understanding. Is that right, Tony? That's what I'm hearing.
all right, Tony, if you capture that well enough for me to put on the
Yeah, I
track.
will.
Okay. All right, what's your time limit there, Tom?
I'm fine.
Okay,
I've
I
probably
think-
got about 5 more minutes. I think I've got about 5.
5 more? Okay,
Is that, how about you, Karen, or you?
Yeah, I got
Yeah.
all right, so let's see, 907. Require long-term leases with total required lease payments that exceed the threshold set at 907 for bond issues. Also be subject to voter referendum.
We're not dealing with anything in 907.
Oh, right. So 907, 907, I'm scrolling. That completes the 900 block.
Well, I mean, we could bounce over here, there is a 90. No, you're right. 9:07 is the end. Okay.
Okay, well, I think we made some progress there. So Tony, thank you for taking the notes. If you send them to me, I'll put it on this tracker. I guess I download the tracker, I'll save as, and I'll send it back to Liam, and I'll CC everyone who's here. And I presume that Liam will take that new updated tracker and present it in the public view.
He will. Mike, you should be prepared. I think the expectation is that there'll be report outs from subcommittees at the next full meeting.
Yeah,
So perhaps you could work from the tracker and just indicate the proposed changes and maybe highlight the areas that we think we'd like further
right,
discussion.
right. And I'll use Tony's notes to populate the tracker and use the tracker to aid Karen, Mary, and myself in presenting to the full committee.
Okay.
How's that sound? Be prepared to speak.
And I'll send that language from other towns just so we
Sure.
can add that in as well. Like, I don't know how many towns you want, like, 5 or 6, or, I'm not sure what would be helpful.
I
Yeah,
think-
very-
I think
would-
honestly, Mary, if you're happy with a particular example, then just forward that on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'll have time to get into that level of detail at the full committee meeting, but
Yeah.
be prepared for it.
Okay. Okay, well, I'll be sending that to you, Mike, so you can add that to the tracker then.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
And Tony, thanks. I know it's Friday, so if you could send it Monday or something, that's fine.
Probably this weekend.
All right. Any closing comments?
Are we gonna set up another meeting time, or, because do we have more to,
Mhm.
we have still
Yeah.
have 10, don't we? Yeah.
You do.
I think I'll, if it's okay with you, Mary and Karen, I'll ask Tom to just give me some suggested times and dates.
Okay.
Because it seems like your calendar is pretty robust, right, Tom? So,
Yeah, it is. I might suggest, we've got this, I'll call it artificial deadline. This matter's going to go to the voters in November at the earliest. So my opinion would be we've got a full committee meeting next week. Let's not worry about a sub meeting until the week after.
yeah, I'm okay with that. Fine.
Okay.
But in the meantime, I hesitate, well, it's worked. I say, Tom, why don't you give me some
Will do.
times and dates that work best for you, and then
Yep.
I'll forward them on to Mary and Karen, and then we'll be able to pick one
All
or
right.
two.
So it will be a couple blocks of time the week after next. Okay.
Sure.
And there's no one in attendance, so I don't believe there's any public comment.
Oh, thanks for reminding me of that. Yes.
Yep.
All right. Well, that being said, then I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? All right.
Great.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so
All
much.
right.
Enjoy the weekend.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
weekend.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.